My name is Rich Fischer. I'm a research wildlife biologist with the Environmental Lab, Army Corps of Engineers in Vicksburg. And we're here this week and next week, Dave and I are to support our Honolulu district. They are taking the charge on these projects. Cindy and Debbie and Nani Shimabuku are the project managers, and we're here to learn and also to help them. So we really appreciate being here. We really appreciate being here this morning and talking to you all, and hopefully we can educate you on some of the things that we've learned, and vice versa. When we get into questions and answers, hopefully we'll learn some things from you too. My formal background in education is as an avian ecologist. I'm a bird guy. But the last 10 or 12 years or so, I've done a lot of work with riparian zones, restoration, management, ecology of riparian. Riparian is that natural strip of vegetation that occurs adjacent to rivers and streams and so forth. And it's something that you don't have a lot of here. Dave and I have walked several of these watersheds now. Not quite top to bottom, but we've seen portions of all parts of the watershed, and learned kind of about the history of the land use here, a lot of the culture. Tried to get some sense of what things used to be like, and basically what you have now is unrecognizable to what was here historically. So one of the things that we're trying to do is try to assess, what are some of those functions that we can put back into these systems. Certainly, the flooding that you had at Manoa is a big concern. So a lot of people are worried about and concerned, as they should be, about the flooding. And that's going to be a big focus of these restoration efforts, is what do we do with all this water. But there are also things that we think that can be done to restore some of the ecology to these systems. So when a drop of water hits the top of the watershed, hits the top of the mountains, there's a lot that can happen to that drop of water by the time it gets down to the bay. That drop of water is it's either going to infiltrate into the ground and go through groundwater and perhaps pick up toxins, things that are down in the groundwater in the soil. It can flow overland and pick up sediment. Oftentimes there are other types of pollutants attached to that sediment. It may be termiticides that are being disturbed in the developed areas. It may be phosphorus from historical farming or current farming practices. It may pick up herbicides and pesticides coming off of somebody's lawn. And then, as Dave said, once that water gets down into that concrete lined channel, or even in some of the unlined areas, once it's in there and it's going to the bay. So there's a lot of things that we need to think about in terms of how can we work on that drop of water to keep those things from getting into the bay. Dave and I we're not coastal ecologists, so we don't understand a lot about the reef ecosystem and so forth, but we have learned a lot this week. We've had the privilege of interacting and talking with folks like Bob Richmond from Manoa. Is Bob here this morning? Thought he was going to be here. Jerry Davis with NOAA, and they understand the coral, they understand the bay, the ecology. They're doing a lot of great science, and we've learned a lot from them. But it's interesting, both Bob and Jerry said that even though they deal with marine systems, coral, reefs and so forth, they hardly spend any time down there in the bay. They spend most of their time up here in the watershed, because this is where all the problems are occurring that are affecting things down in the bay. So found that to be pretty interesting. But I think there's a strong awareness of how connected everything is from top to bottom. So you understand what's going on down in the bay, what the impacts are, the stressors, and you start identifying the things that need to be done higher in the watershed to try to correct some of those things. So my role out here personally has been to take more a look at the ecology of these systems and what are some of the things that we perhaps can restore back to the systems. The riparian zone, that strip of vegetation adjacent to these systems, there's some fairly nice riparian high in the watershed. As Dave indicated, on Manoa Stream, just south of Woodlawn Bridge, there's some very nice riparian. As you get to the edge of the lava flow and it flows down, going towards the canal, there's actually some pretty neat stuff down there. But primarily in the urban and suburban areas, very little riparian, very little high quality vegetation, and that vegetation has a lot of functions. In a good functioning riparian system, you're providing habitat. You are kind of cycling nutrients and so forth. That vegetation takes a lot of nutrients out of the soil, puts it into vegetation. And one of the things I think that we'll probably focus on with buffers here are their ability to slow down the movement of overland water. And as that water slows down, it moves through roots and sticks and things on the ground. It drops out things like sediment and other nutrients and allows the vegetation to uptake some of those things. So, but it's a real challenge. You know, we've kicked around a lot of ideas about people's backyards, perhaps laying back some of those vertical banks, which is going to require some people to give up a little bit of land. But you lay those banks back a little bit, you can put some riparian vegetation in there. They're probably more stable, or would be more stable than they are now. So I think there's some definite opportunities, but it's going to take a lot of work. It's going to take a lot of community education. We've been out and about quite a bit this week. We've run into quite a few landowners. One young woman we ran into late one evening down, I can't remember where we were, down the confluence, right? She was visiting from Southern California and was just appalled at the way the streams were being treated. In fact, she got to talking with us, and she was so passionate about it, she started crying because she just couldn't believe what folks here had done to the streams, you know. So, and that was just one example of some folks that we ran into that are very passionate about the streams here. So, you know, I think it's going to be important for groups like this to reach out to the community, to try to engage the landowners, the business owners, and so forth, and try to encourage them to kind of participate in this overall effort, because I think that's what it's going to take, is just a wide community-based effort. You know, the Corps, Fish and Wildlife Service, NRCS, Department of Health, NOAA, and all, you know, agencies can only do so much. City and County of Honolulu, it's really going to take a strong concerted effort by the community as well. So.